punishableness?
No.
Alright. So, now that we've got that out of the way, we're on to everyone's favorite subject, homework. Also, I would like to point out that after this homework, we're going to do closing thoughts um, and question and answers. So that would be a good time to get your questions ready. All right. So, homework. Practice your block punishing. Do it in practice mode, like we talked about before. What you would do is you would go, take your opponent, go to repeat action, find moves that are punishable in the move list. You can frame data tutorial apps like RB Norway or Tekken Chicken or the Tekken bot to help you with this. And practice punishing them. I'm not going to do it because I'm on my controller again and I can't do that on my controller because I guess 4 stick doesn't have the touchpad. So yeah, practice that. Like pick a character and just go through their moves and learn how to punish them. Especially if you have a difficult time versus a character, um, learn how to punish them, and you'll be amazed at how easier it is to deal with them. Then with punishing, you do the same thing except this time, back up a bit, have them whiff their move, and try to whiff punish. Try to get the feel and the timing for it. On that one, you'll probably want to set the interval here random. Go down to random, so that way you don't know when the move is coming. So that way it gives you a little bit more practice reacting to it. So DT Flip asks, should we practice this against Nina? Yeah, practice it against Nina. Practice it against anyone you want. If you have a hard time versus Nina, go ahead and do that. Although I will say, if you're saying that just because you want to fight against me better, I don't throw out a whole lot of punishables.
This is true.
But if you do catch me throwing out punishable stuff and you do punish it, I do tend to not throw it out as much. So there's that. Yeah, so that's practicing with punishing, interval to random, back up, have them whiff a big move, and practice with punishing it. High string punishing, if you want to, this one is optional because it's return on investment is a bit lower for time because it's going to be a lot of time and it's very situational on use. But if you're going up against an opponent that likes to abuse high strings a lot, then it might be worth your time to take that particular string or set of strings that the opponent uses and learn how to punish it. But yeah, so you set your opponent to do that string. You can record it if you can have the computer repeat an action you record by using the record option. You can control your opponent and record their movements. So now I'm controlling my opponent, which is Yukitsu. So I can have him do whatever I want to. I can't actually record it because my stick doesn't let me. Yeah, and then practice it. So that's your homework for this week. Anything you would like to add for homeworks?
No.
Yeah. So keep in mind that sometimes doing this can feel tedious, but I will guarantee that the when you start actually doing this in battle against other players, it will feel very rewarding to have done that. All right. That was probably my shortest homework assignment because we already talked about it all already. But anyways, we're going to move on to closing thoughts and questions. So now is the time to unleash your questions. Unleash all the questions. Gonna let this title screen sit for a minute more. Probably not a minute, because yeah. Alright.
If your opponent only uses safe moves,
Yeah, so Psycho Ninja asks, so what do we do if our opponent is only using safe moves?
you would honestly you would see if their moves are linear that they're using, like are they using jabs and down for one, step them, and then that's going to force them to change their offense a little more risky or something, because they could throw out a punishable that is punishable and or tracks. So it all just really depends. And if they're throwing safe moves, find out there if it's a string as well. So it all really just depends. There are players like Silence himself that do throw out moves that are just all safes and a lot of pokes. And sometimes you just have to step around and deal with that or space out, make your openings happen.
Right, so a big part of the answer to that is in the first tutorial, the art of movement. Movement is a really good method for forcing whiffs. So one of the things that makes Tekken a really interesting game is that there is nothing that is safe. There is nothing that is safe. So you can punish everything, one way or another, um, but you have to set it up. So like even jabs, simple jabs, you can sidestep and launch. Um, there's an answer to everything, but even if you can't actually punish them for doing something, um, if you are blocking, um, generally speaking, after you block a move, you are at advantage. So there's kind of a concept of taking turns on attacking. So like player A attacks, player B blocks. Now it's player B's turn to attack. So player B attacks. You can kind of use that sort of mentality. Wait till you block something to start your offense. It doesn't always work, because there's a lot of different situations, and depending on what moves you use and what can really change up what's going on. Yeah. Echo Ninja, is this going to be a running joke on the tutorials now? Saying you're new to the game. Let's see, but Miguel, how good is his punishment?
Pretty good.
Um, he's got a decent 10 frame. Not great, but it's not bad. What does he have between 10 and launch?
Down 4-1-2, and it's down 4-2-1 or down 4-1-2. He doesn't have a 13 frame launcher, but I know he's got down 4-2-1 or something like that. That is it's his 15, I believe. He's got down forward 1 strings. I'm sure there's a variation of them. Got 2-1 for 11 or.
Yeah, 2-1 transitions to Savage Stance, doesn't it?
Yeah. 2.
So you can use that to start a mix-up game. Yeah, so Miguel's punishment is neat. I wouldn't base your character pick on how good their punishment is unless it's Akuma. Because when it comes down to it, there's relatively small differences in the punishment. Notable differences are at 14 frames. Some characters get launches where other characters have to wait till 15 or 16 to get a launch. But Akuma with meter, his 10 frame punish can take your entire life bar.
Yep.
You chose Miguel because you were told that he's not super mechanic intensive. When you mean when you say mechanically intensive, do you mean execution heavy? He doesn't have a lot of difficult execution that he has to perform.
I feel like he means that maybe it's because he's not as hard of a character and he's
That could be. But yeah, so Miguel is not that hard of a character, and he's pretty easy to pick up. He's got a lot of good mix-up potentials, really strong pokes, um, and his execution isn't too bad. Yeah. So, anyways, moving on to closing thoughts, and we'll answer more questions as they come, if they come. So, he likes, Psycho Ninja likes to play Lee, but he seems hard to execute.
Lee is a really hard character. A high level and decent level against decent people. Lee is very fun to face. You have to make a lot of reads and very patient. Like you have to give your opponent basically if you block something. Situation for Yoshi, if they block something, you're immediately at really negative likely, and you have to deal with the turn basis. You have to give your opponent more advantage than you would like.
Execution wise, I would say Lee is not bad for combos anymore because you don't need the back twos. The Thursday meetup start at 7 at Smash. Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with playing as Lee, but I do know that he's got a lot of really good tools, a lot of really good high crushes, which gets me all the time, and he's got a really good spacing, which is odd for Tekken because he's got his back four, I think, with a little overhead kick.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to utilize that well as a good keep up tool, that will take you far. Yeah. So closing thoughts. The punishment is really important to discourage your opponent from using their powerful move. By punishing their moves, tell them that if they want to use those moves, they have to take the risk of getting punished. Punishment gets you free damage when your opponent is punishable moves, and it's one of the big fundamentals of Tekken and fighting games in general. So it's definitely important to learn and practice to help control your opponent, to not let them get away with doing whatever they want.
Last thing I'll say in closing thoughts is it can save you rounds. It can give you more time to adapt when you're like in an intense set and your opponent's about to close out the set, and they throw something punishable out. They don't think because they're feeling themselves, so they think they smell blood, so they do something punishable. They die for it. So it gives you more time, and basically, in long story short, it can save your life in intense sets, tournament match, whatever the set may be. And yeah, like you were saying, it's just a really important fundamental to have if you don't in your play. And if you don't have it against players that do punishable stuff and smart players, they won't just do that move. They'll put setups around or how to use it.
Right. So to give a specific example of closing out a round situation, a lot of players like to throw a low hit to take your last bit of health. If you knowing that, you know to look for a low, so you can block the low. And as we know, most lows are at least -11, so you can punish them for trying to do that. So Psycho Ninja asks, who's a good character to practice punishment against? I think the best character to practice punishment against is the character you struggle with against the most.
Yeah, agreed.
So if you just have a hard time against the character, practice punishing that character. Once you start punishing that character in match, you will be amazed at how easier that matchup seems.
Yeah. I do think there are a couple characters because since Tekken 7 has a different of play styles, different how moves work compared to most games in Tekken, I think Claudio, Akuma especially, and Eliza. A lot of the newer people that you're not used to seeing in Tekken and seeing the animations how they are. Certain things. I think those type of characters are good, but overall, what Evan said with practicing a character you're not familiar with or you struggle against in matchups is like one of the best things.
One thing about practicing against Akuma and Eliza is that a lot of their good stuff is you'll have to record because um, the the move list doesn't put them
Yeah,
in,
the X
in
move.
and they don't they don't put you into the situations where someone would that move like jump in attacks to land it to string or chaining to stand ground hits to launchers. And they don't do that. But so you have to record that and practice against those, which would mean that you're going to have to learn the character a bit. Um, yeah, so those might not be a good one to start practicing punishing on because you're going to have to go through um, a process before you can start really practicing punishing. I guess you can always practice punishing their normals, but not their really good stuff. But yeah, Claudio's a good one to practice punishment because Claudio's got a lot of things that
Or unexpected in Tekken.
yeah, like his down forward too. I found out is minus 14.
Main thing is get that hop kick down. That's it's still 15, but it seems like the fastest hop kick in the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And if you can punish a hop kick, you've got 90% of the punishment down already. Because that's a lot of what people throw out, just because the risk reward is so good.
Yep. Yeah, very much.
Right. Yeah. So I think that about wraps up the tutorial part of this. You want to play a few games and let more questions roll in?
Sure.
All right. So we're gonna play a few games. Go ahead and
I'll give you some more examples too of what we mean when we're playing against each other.
yeah. So have any questions? This one's open season, so if you have character specific stuff too,